Death and taxes. They say these are the two things which are certain in life. I bet the person who came up with that phrase was not an anarchist or not a humanist or anyone who cares so much about freedom per se, but a very clever propagandist with such a simple phrase. There are two things certain in life, and those are death and taxes. I'd like to say the absolute opposite. Death is certainly not certain. We have no idea what happens when we die. Science and spirituality and even religions with all their problems have looked into the immortality of the soul and the potentiality that we do live on forever as spiritual beings, as gods per se. Taxes are certainly not certain as well, because big corporations pay very little tax. The rulers of this financial slave ship, I believe, don't pay very much tax. And central banks themselves and the scumbag motherfucking slave owners who control such evil institutions, I am sure, do not pay very much tax. But on a more personal note, I don't pay any tax, and neither should you. You shouldn't pay your mortgages, you shouldn't pay your taxes, you should never even really pay interest to any debts you have with the banks, or even better still, totally ignore your debts and walk away from them. When you wake up politically to how this system is run and how you've been lied to from a very early age, from birth, perhaps really with the birth certificate and the indoctrination of nursery and then school, when you start seeing through things, you want to just start walking away from this evil. And there is no need at this stage in the Western world to mount some form of armed revolution against the state. Although we do not allow the state to have a monopoly on violence, and if they do start killing our brothers and sisters, we will withhold the right, we will have the right as human beings to overthrow these scumbags using violent revolution. I do believe in 2011 and for the future we can have peace through non-violence. I think as many people, many much wiser people than myself have said, the way to deal with evil is to walk away from it, to shame it, to want nothing to do with it. And in this flavor of thought, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict could be stopped if the Palestinians would just stop fighting. Now, I do understand the value of a heroic last stand when death is certain, much like Leonidas at the hot gates of Thermopylae when the Persians were invading. And I don't just mean the Hollywood productions. I have read the historical documents, who knows how accurate they are, of that final last stand of the Spartans. And there is something that does renew one's faith in humanity, to see people appreciate that death is not the end and to fight to the very bitter end. But we're not talking about 300 men, we're talking about 1 million men, women and children in Palestine who I do not believe are served best by Hamas or the PLO firing rockets into Israel. Excuse me 1 second, it's raining, I'm going to move a bit further closer to the house. As I was just saying, we don't have a last stand situation in Gaza or the West Bank. We have 1 million innocent men, women and children who are themselves the victims of a religious ideology which is polluting their ability to reason in the face of definite machine-like tyranny from the Israeli government. I think it's important for us in the resistance, us anarchists, us people who believe in libertarian anarchist values, to not ascribe heroism entirely to those who are oppressed, because those who are oppressed very often have their own set of problems. And in the Palestinian issue and in the Middle East, we shouldn't look upon those who are bombed by the machine and wipe them free of any sin themselves. I mean, I believe Islam is as much a force for destruction of men's minds and women's minds and children's minds as Judaism or Christianity. And religion will prevent people from seeing very clearly as to what the best course of action is. And so I understand people who complain sometimes and say, oh, but Islam is barbaric, look what they do to their women, look what they do to their children. And Iran doesn't do itself any favors by publicly saying they're going to stone a woman for adultery. That isn't very becoming of a civilized people. So what I'm trying to say is that just because someone is the victim doesn't make them clear of any problems themselves. In the Middle East, it is religion which causes the main divisions. I mean, genetically, these people are identical. The Arabs, the Jews. I'm sorry to say that, Jews, but you are the Arabs, and the Arabs, you are the Jews. And anyway, what kind of arbitrary separatist identity is that anyway? You're all just human beings. So please, can the voice of reason enter the Palestinian-Israeli conflict? Can the Jews shut the fuck up? And can the Muslims please break out of this mental straitjacket you're in? This religion which will not serve you in any way except to keep you downtrodden, controlled, enslaved. You are not a child of Allah. You do not have to follow the Quran any more than a Jew doesn't need to circumcise his son, any more than a Christian has to allow their children to spend time with a priest. All religions are brainwashing, disgusting, horrifically violent institutions for the minds of men, women, and children. And as an anarchist, I understand the greatest mind control problem alongside statism is the ultimate conspiracy of religionism. Anyway, thanks for watching. This is Charlie Veitch of the Love Police. Today's the 5th of January 2011. Have a good year.